In propositional logic, we worked with propositions, and so a proposition was a statement that was either true or false. For example, we had something like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, so this is true. And then if we had a statement like 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, this was also a proposition, which was false, right? A predicate is a function that gives a true value once we plug in values from the domain. So what do we mean by that? Let's look at an example here. So if you look at this example here, so e of x will be the predicate, that is, x is even. Where the domain, let's think of it as the integers. So e of x itself is not true or false because we don't know what x is. But once we plug in a value, we can say whether it's true or false. So in that way, you can think of it as a function. So for example, e of 2 is true because 2 is an even number, whereas e of 3 is false, right? You could have something, another example could be maybe the domain of this course is people in the class, and let's say there's a student called Alex, and so h of x would be x submitted homework 1, so you could then have something like h of Alex, which would be true, let's say this would be true if Alex submitted homework 1, and it would be false otherwise. And another example here, p of x being the predicate of whether a number is larger than 0, and so of course p of 1 is true. Now of course it doesn't need to be the case that it's a function with only one variable. You could have things with more than one variable, right? So if we look here on the right, for example, L of xy is the predicate whether x is smaller than y. So once again, just L of xy itself, we can't really say anything about it because we don't know what x and y are. But something like L of 1, 2 will be true, whereas L of, let's say, 2, 1 will be false, right? Why? Because 1 is smaller than 2, and but 2 is not smaller than 1. And you can have something like email xy, so you could have this predicate of did Alex email Bob? And this will be true if Alex emailed Bob, and false otherwise. And finally, you can have more complicated relations, of course. I mean, you can have any type of thing where when it just has to be that when you substitute the values, you get a, how do you say, you get a proposition. So it must be that a predicate is essentially like a proposition on a variable x. And once x is replaced, you get just a proposition, which is either true or false, right? And so you can have something like s of xy also, where it's checking whether y squared is equal to x. So of course something like s of, let's say, x equal to 4 and y equal to 2 will be true, because y squared would be 4, would be equal to 4. But of course, if you reverse that, that would be false, for example. And so the idea is that once we fill in the blanks with actual objects, the predicate becomes a proposition, and then it has a true value.